for the next session, and Etay is telling us how to counter upcoming threats from threat actors that are using usual cloud applications. And he's bringing along some real-world examples. Just having a quick change. And Etay, we've known him for many, many years. He's been a speaker at our events before, so you might have heard from him, and he's right, there we are. Go already, enjoy.
Yeah. Now it's good. Okay, yeah, I can hear myself. Hi everyone, thank you for joining the session. Thank you for the intro. I've been lucky enough to present at several events. Hopefully we'll present more in the future. So the topic for our presentation is clouded with a chance of cyber attacks. I didn't originally want to have the APT 29 and 41 in the title. I wanted to keep that as a surprise, but security, it's gone. So what we're going to do during this session is talk a little bit about how threat actors are actively abusing trust in cloud environments to control botnets. A couple words about myself to introduce myself. So my name is Etay Maor, Senior Director of Security Strategy at Cato Networks. Sometimes I've been getting the question of what does that mean? I'm still not sure. But what I do know is they let me do whatever I want and whatever research I want, so I'm happy with that, whatever the title is. Prior to that, I was Chief Security Officer for Insights, which is a threat intelligence company that got acquired by Rapid7. Before that, I worked for Trusteer that got acquired by IBM. And before that, I was 6 years the head of the Cyber Threats Research Lab for RSA Security, managed teams of reverse engineers, penetration testers, all kinds of good stuff. Today, I am located in Boston. I came here from Boston. I'm also a professor for cybersecurity at BC, and I started my career back in high school. I wasn't a very good student. That's a nice way to say it. But I was pretty good with computers, so I hacked my school database and changed my grades. My father, who was Department of Defense in Israel, thought it was really funny. My mom was a teacher at that school. She didn't think it was funny. So I got punished. I had to teach other kids about computers. So obviously the first thing I taught them was how to break into the school system and change their grades. That's how I do things. Also, one more thing that I wanted to mention that is not up here. I'm also part of the committee for a different security conference, small one. You might have heard about it, RSA. So I help choose the presentations there. And if anybody is thinking of submitting to that conference, please try not to include the words AI or LLM, because you won't believe how many submissions we get on that topic. That is exactly the reason I did not use those words for this presentation, and we will talk a little bit about AI and LLM towards the end of this session. Okay, let's get right into it. And this is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about, like I said, botnets, cloud command and control, and I'm going to do 2 live demos of attacks emulating APT 29 and APT 41. But before all of that, I think there's a very important question. Is Germany interesting at all? And unfortunately, the answer is yeah. Germany is very interesting for a lot of different reasons. I'm specifically talking about why it's interesting for Russian underground forums and dark web trading places. So let's take a quick look. I've gathered some stuff here. Most of it is pretty recent, some of it like from last week, to see if the cybercrime underground is interested in Germany. So with that, let's get into the intro. And as you can see, the intro is talking about 2008 till 2021. Because this is not very new, right? We had already seen a lot of attacks, and there's a lot of discussion about living off the land attacks, right? Using WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation, or PowerShell to conduct attacks. Once you get access to a compromised server, you just use whatever is on it that's legitimate tools to conduct the attack. We're familiar with different attacks around cloud services. But what is very different today, and that's where we come to living off the cloud, which are the attacks that I'm going to discuss and demonstrate today, is there's a fundamental difference today, and I'll show you some historical examples, where organizations are now trusting these cloud applications. Trusting is even an easy word. Organizations are reliant on these cloud applications. I can't think of an organization that doesn't have Salesforce, for example, or some form of web storage, Google Drive or something like that, that everybody is constantly using. And the attackers are abusing the trust between the organization and those cloud services. I don't want to go into, is this the right or wrong implementation of zero trust, but I will go into some strategies to counter this towards the end. So the combination of cloud services and living off the land is bringing us living off the cloud. So what is it that you need in order to build a botnet? The four core components, if we look at it, is you need a piece of malware. Obviously, you need to infect people in an organization with a piece of malware. Goes without saying. Once you have the infection, you need bidirectional communication between the infected device and your command and control. You need storage. If you're exfiltrating data out, or if you want to keep new versions of the malware somewhere and update the malware. So you need some storage. You need a data, I call it for CRM, database for managing all your operations. Now, why did I start with 2008 till 2021? Because in the past, these were four separate things. Sure, you could combine some of them. Maybe you put the storage in the same place where you create your command and control. But usually, they were separate things. And in many cases, they were on very dedicated servers. Again, these servers would either be hijacked servers or behind bulletproof hosting somewhere in Russia, Ukraine, Vietnam, Brazil. Depends where they want to set it up. But today, these three can all be in the cloud on legitimate services, not on dedicated or hijacked service, but run through legitimate services. And that's the core of the attack that I'm going to show. Now, if we look back a little bit, and I do have respect for Richard, but I remember reading some of these at the time, and you have some amazing quotes here. It's fashion-driven and completely rubbish. When is this going to stop? Do your own computing on your own computer with your copy of a freedom-respecting program. If you use a proprietary program or somebody else's web server, you're defenseless. You're putting in the hands of whoever developed that software. I can probably speak for about 40 more minutes about why this statement is wrong. I just summarized it in a meme that somebody else created, which I thought was somewhat correct. I don't have to explain to you how much adoption of cloud services there are today, right? I can show you tons of slides now of, everybody's adopting it, amazing adoption statistics, a lot of graphs going like that, with dollar signs or with different numbers that are growing. But to be honest, this really, at the bottom line is what is written here. There's a reason why. Cloud comes with many benefits, cost cutting, data security. In fact, 80% of companies report operation improvements after adopting the cloud. Whatever you think about cloud computing and cloud storage and all of that, you do get a benefit of security and management. But let's go back a little bit, even further back than some of these quotes. This is not the first time that we have seen cloud services or, external services being used as part of a command and control for botnets. The first time that I ran into it was, I think this was 2008. Yeah, I said about 15 years ago. I'm pretty sure this is 2008. So threat actors were trying to figure out how to go under the radar of security companies when it comes to communicating with infected bots in enterprises. What did they do? They created dedicated Twitter accounts like this one, where they set commands. And what the bot would do, he would pull commands from Twitter. So he would go communicate to Twitter, see if there's a new command. If there is, he would execute it on the infected device, effectively bypassing security. Because, if you see a computer on your network communicating, with Russia, China, Brazil, although, those are the usual suspects. If you look really, most of the attacks are from the US. But just for the sake of distinction, talking to a computer in Russia, you'd say that's highly suspicious. But if you see a computer talking to Twitter, that's somebody in your organization just using Twitter. And so this went under the radar of a lot of log systems and a lot of security systems. And that is exactly, again, what we're seeing today. The major difference being, it doesn't have to be to Twitter, it can be to actual applications that your organization really does use. Unfortunately, a lot of times also the organizations really do use stuff like YouTube. And again, we've seen attacks like this on YouTube where you had comments that were actually command and control for the bots that were infected. So again, it's not really super new, the idea. The difference is how reliant organizations are today on some of the applications that I'm going to show you. And the result is what we're seeing today. There's a great report, I think it is by Mandiant, about APT29, Cozy Bear, utilizing Trello. Anybody here familiar with Trello? Okay, you guys are more organized than me. My managers want me to use all these products. I can't use all those tracking products, but Trello is for, I would say, like project management, idea management. The team here knows that they use Trello, and I have a very hard time using it. Others have been like APT41, which, where is it? This one. This is APT41, the Chinese group, Wicked Panda. I believe 29 is Cozy Bear, 41 is Wicked Panda, that are using, again, cloud-based services in order to control botnets. So obviously we're seeing much more recent results. And it's not like the industry is ignoring this. If you look at the MITRE ATT&CK framework, you already see that there are acknowledgments to web services abuse and exfiltration. You can see here, using common services such as those offered by Google or Twitter make it easier for adversaries to hide expected noise. And that's exactly what we're going to see. So the industry is already familiar and is acknowledging it. I don't think enough organizations understand that this is happening under their radar. So what is it that you need in order to build an all-cloud command and control server? So if we go back to the original picture that I showed you with the 4 different components, right? You have the malware. I said everything else can run in the cloud, in a command and control here, and you have the attacker. And so, you want to control the malware as the attacker. You need 4 things. What makes a command and control? First of all, it's a telemetry channel, which is the communication between the malware and the server, right? You want to report information, you want to update, stuff like that. You need a command channel, which is the server-to-malware communication. You want to send new commands to the bot, tell them what to do, change things. You need an exfiltration channel, right? If you want to send the data out of the infected computer, if you're stealing information, or if you're a ransomware, for example, and you want to throw stuff out, you need some exfiltration channel. And there is an additional one which I won't go into today. I'm just going to talk about the first 3, which is infected device overview and scoping, because you want to know probably a little bit more about the device that you're attacking, statuses, which software is running, stuff like that. But I'm going to leave that to the side today. So what can we use in order to perform these operations? I'm going to take a look at 2 pretty well-known cloud services. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is the icon for Trello, and I think most of you know Google Drive, I believe. So, can you do telemetry? Yeah, you can. You have the option to add a folder in your Google Drive, and you have the option to add, it's called a card in Trello, right? You add a card, you add a folder, which means that you can add a command. So this telemetry is actually a command. Just like you saw on Twitter, adding or on YouTube, adding in a comment, or in Twitter, adding a tweet, this is how you add a command. The command, so for the malware to read it, yeah, you can read a folder name or read from a card. That's like a super basic operation. Exfiltration in Google Drive, you can upload files, right? That's a legitimate function. In Trello, you can upload an attachment. And of course, you have multi-victim support in both because you can create multiple folders or multiple lists in Trello. So essentially, these cloud services give me everything that I need in order to communicate, exfiltrate, update my malware. So why not use and abuse them? Essentially, you're turning this situation into this situation. And like I said, I'm only going to demonstrate Trello and Google Drive today, but you can do this to any cloud services. We actually internally, we ran proof of concept for several others. Box is on here, yeah. On Box and on another one that's on here that I prefer not to mention. But you can do this on other cloud services as well. So with that, we've been talking about it. Let's actually do it. Let's see how it works. And I'm going to do this as a live demonstration, running malware on my own computer, which is a super great idea, and trying to do it live. So if something goes wrong during the live example, I do have pre-recorded videos here that we'll revert back to, and we'll watch them as video. If I get an alert from my security operations that what am I doing on the computer this time, then we might have to stop, but hopefully everything will run properly. So let's take a look. First things first, I wanted to show you. This is a folder that I have called Trello Demo. You can see there's a couple of pictures here. There's a couple of files, including the Trello malware, which is a very simple malware that we wrote using Python. All I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy the location of the folder. In a second. Oop. Come on, get out of this. Back here. Copy address. Okay, now let's open a browser. And this is Trello. If you're not familiar with Trello, this is what Trello looks like. This is an empty version. Trello is free to use. Anybody can open a Trello account. This is what it would look like. You can add lists of tasks now to Trello and start creating your project. This is going to be, as I named it, my command and control. Again, pay attention that right now it's empty. Let me open a command prompt and go to my Trello demo. You can see this is where I am. And now I'm just going to run the malware. I just want to move it to the side. No, not like this. Super large so everybody can see. But I'm going to run Python 3 and my very nice Trello malware. Welcome to Trello malware. And take a look at the background in the meantime while it's running. Boom. Cool. So now, this is the computer. So what have I just done? I just emulated somebody getting infected with a piece of malware. How did it get infected? I don't really care. Phishing with an attachment, USB that they picked up and plugged in, website with a download, drive-by download, doesn't really matter. My victim got infected. They ran the malware. Now I can do everything from this cloud service. What do I mean? All I have to do is add a card. And I'm going to use the communication that, how we designed the malware. So I'm going to use a command called execute dir. And this is the point where I hold my fingers. Okay. And it executed the command, and here is the result. So now I know what's on the computer. But I said before, that's not the only thing you can do, right? You can upload and download files from Trello, which is awesome. There's something here called bwc.jpg. I'll just add another command. This time I'm going to use exfil, bwc.jpg. Again, this is the point where I cross my fingers. Okay. You guys know what that picture is. Right? And now I'm downloading stuff from this computer. And what's so significant about this is, again, if the organization is not monitoring the use of cloud application or is allow any communication to Trello, I'm running a botnet abusing these cloud services while going under the radar of the security products. Cool? Let's do another thing. I hope this is okay. I hope this is cool. Oh, okay, yay, it's cool. I'm popular. I showed this to my wife, and she was like, do the dishes. I don't know what you're doing. So I'm happy you guys are into it more than my wife is. Let's go to another one. So now I'm in the G drive one, because I don't want to run two malware at the same time. I had to kill the other one, not to drive our sysadmins completely crazy. Let's run this one. Before I do, let me show you my G drive. So this is my drive. Oh, errors? Okay. We might need to see the video, hopefully. Let's see. No, I think it's actually working. I don't believe there is an error. Let's try. I'm going to run the malware. It might prompt me now. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't really like the fact that I have some unsigned stuff. I don't know why it's getting mad at something called G drive malware. But yeah, I know it's not a verified app. It's okay. Okay. And now, going back here. There it is. So again, victim got infected somehow. Now I can use their computer. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go into my G drive. This is now just a folder, that's all. I'm going to add a new folder. Because right now what's actually happening, right, the malware is constantly polling G drive and asking, is there a new command? They're looking for a new folder. And the new folder is going to be execute. I think this is how the command runs. Let's try. And it'll change to done if it was successful. Okay. I go into the folder. There's a new file here. And there it is. This is the dir. Okay, there's something here called dp.jpg. Sorry, need to go back here. Let's add a new folder. And this one will be exfil again. dp.jpg. Created the folder. Downloading the file. And done. Okay. Daniel Peretz, your new goalkeeper from Israel. Good luck to him. So you see that controlling this, and by the way, the malware is super duper simple. It's like really simple Python malware. And this goes under the radar. And this is exactly what Cozy Bear, I don't want to say it's exactly what APT41 are doing, but it's exactly what Cozy Bear are doing during their attacks. Let me stop the malware. Of course, you do it much cleaner than me and not show all this in the background if you're developing a real malware. So, only 13 minutes, okay. These are the videos. We don't need it because it was awesome. So what now? So what can you do to counter threats like this? Well, we need a mindset change. And the way that I approach it, I should have it built up, but I'll explain it one by one, is a three-level approach: a strategic approach, operational approach, and tactical approach. You can see my military background. Everything has to be in three and like that. So a strategic approach to cloud services. Organizations need to start thinking, which applications do they really want their users to use? So sanctioned and unsanctioned applications. Now, it may be very harsh for an organization to say, don't ever use G drive, right? Because people use it. It reminds me of when I used to do demos of rubber duckies and bad USBs. Organization says, oh, we got you, Etay, we understand. No more USBs from now on. And I was like, no, that's not what I meant. Because what will happen if you do no more USBs from now on is you'll start seeing people uploading files to their Gmail or wherever, and that's not, safer practice than USB drives. So You can block certain applications, use either a blacklist or whitelist approach, only allow stuff you need or deny anything you don't, whatever it is. Another approach is an operational approach, which looks at the account. So tenant restriction, meaning, okay, you are allowed to use Trello, but you're only allowed to use the corporate instance of Trello. Why? Because other instances, like the one that I showed you, can be a threat. So you're allowed to use this application, but only the enterprise account for it. That can be easily done, with tools that are out there today, CASB and so on, Cloud Access Security Broker, and so on. You also can go tactical. So you can say, okay, you're allowed to use Trello, or let's say you're allowed to use Google Drive. You're also allowed to use a non-enterprise account, so a personal account. However, you're not allowed to upload files. Why? Because that is very risky, as we've just seen. So we are, when you look at it, it's not really security at the end of the day, as we all know, it's risk tolerance. Our risk tolerance goes all the way for you to use your personal account, but there's no uploading, downloading files. You can actually go even a level under that with DLP, and you can say you're allowed to use Google Drive, you're allowed to use your own instance, you're allowed to upload and download. Only the contents of those uploads and downloads cannot be credit card information or PII or whatever it is, medical information, whatever it is you're trying to protect. You can even go another layer down. We're not going to discuss going into different heuristics, but you do have the options of 3 different layers of saying, where is my risk tolerance? Does it end with specific applications? Or I can allow, certain operations and certain commands on accounts that I don't control, up to what level? Where am I putting my hand on that kind of like bar, right or left? Hope that makes sense. Okay, so that I think, that is the conclusion of the command and control and how threat actors are abusing the trust of command and control. But like I said, and I apologize to the organizers, I did not include the fact that I'm going to talk about, I'm getting the, what is it doing, look. I did not include the AI, but I do want to talk a little bit about AI and LLMs because there's also this now notion in the media and everything that AI will be able to do everything and anything. So I just want to discuss it a little bit because it connects to some of the stuff that we've done here. And yeah, time permits. And, this is the feeling that I'm getting right now when I open the internet and try to read security news. That's all everybody is talking about. So fine, no problem. Let's talk about it a little bit. I actually had a presentation that I did. It's up on the Cato Network's website called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of ChatGPT. So I do want to show you just a couple of examples, but then I want to give you, just as I did at the beginning, we're going to close the same way. I want to give you the criminal perspectives on using AI for automation of attacks. So there are good ways to use ChatGPT, right? Here's an example that I, played around with. I said, I'm investigating an attack, and I saw that the attackers used different techniques. They first performed, I used the MITRE language, right, T1078 and then T1047, analyzed recent attacks where these 2 techniques were used, and tell me what is likely to be the next technique that they use. So I'm trying to kind of like help a SOC analyst make his job a lot easier, and ChatGPT immediately analyzed 10 different attacks where these techniques were used. You can see them in each and every one. And they said, based on these previous attacks, it is likely that attackers will use T1059 command and scripting as their next move, which is really cool to help security operations either in real time or when they're investigating, a threat. It really lowers the time you need to invest into understanding these attacks. But that comes with a little asterisk on the side of, do I really trust the analysis here? And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. This is by far the best example that I could give you of how you can use ChatGPT for good things in security or in coding, at least for me for now. I give it a simple code that I wrote. This simple code, all it does is run on an array of numbers and extract the smallest one. That's all this code does. And I asked it, what is the bug in this code? And here's the funny thing. There is no bug. The code is fine. The code will compile and it will run. There is a little mistake though. See this bigger than sign here? It should be smaller than. And as a computer science student 20 years ago, I can't tell you how many nights I spent in front of my own code looking for greater rather than greater equal than, and I see some people with pain in their eyes going like this now. Yeah, we've been through that. How many times I've done this type of mistake? But so I was like, okay, let's ask ChatGPT, what is the error here? And there is no error. It just won't perform like it should. And this was kind of freaking out for me. When I read this, it said, yeah, you have a logical error. You have to turn this greater than to smaller than, because you're trying to extract the smallest number. I was like, how do you know what I was trying to do? Now, I assume they know how I know what I was trying to do because of the commands that I was using here, but still, it doesn't really know my intentions. So this was very interesting. During the last conference, that large conference that I won't mention its name again, I did a table discussion with 30 people. We had 30 people on watching as well around ChatGPT. One of the people there said that he uses ChatGPT in his company for code review, and it's performing, in his words, 4 times better than the 2 leading vendors which were down at the booths, at that conference. And I was like, that's amazing. So what do? You upload your code to ChatGPT and look for the results? And he said, yeah. I'm like, you upload your code to ChatGPT? And he's like, okay, never. I'm like, okay, let's have a privacy discussion a little bit later. So please be careful with that, because there are already incidents with PII hard-coded into code that is uploaded. Of course, you can use it for bad stuff. Write a Java code that downloads Mimikatz and runs it using PowerShell. Yeah, you can do stuff like that. I'll be completely frank with you. This is not ChatGPT. This is their playground, and ChatGPT is getting better and better at not allowing you to do bad stuff. However, when you ask really nicely, or when you social engineer the AI, you can still do it. Here I said, write a Python script that searches for doc and PDF files that contain the word confidential, copies them to a random folder. Once the folder gets to a size of 100 megabytes, zips them, transfer them using FTP to IP, whatever. Write explanations for each function in the form of a rhyming poem. And it wrote 10 pages of code. Now, the code isn't perfect, but it's not bad. And here, for example, it's explaining to the dumb human what is this function that encrypts the data. So it says, this function will zip the files tight, encrypt them with AES-256, that's just right, then transfer the data with FTP site to the IP 1234 day or night. You can also ask it to write in the style of the Beatles or Metallica, and it does that. It's really funny. Yeah, never mind. Okay, but this is not the point I was trying to make. The point there were other things I asked it to do, obfuscate commands using, as sensitive, you can see here. Then I said, well, that was very bad. Do the last one, but make it look like a bash and suggest the obfuscation code. And it did that. And then I still told it that this is not good enough. And I said, okay, do the same thing, but don't use base 64. Use something less obvious, which it did. So these are pretty nice things that threat actors can potentially use in their attacks. But I wanted to show you what they think about ChatGPT. This is from a recent underground discussion in a Russian forum, where somebody said, good day, gentlemen. I've become interested in hearing about Bard from someone who has done relatively deep testing on both of the most popular AI chatbot solutions, ChatGPT and Bard. Regarding ChatGPT, I have encountered its blunders and shortcomings myself for more than once. But it would be very interesting to know how Bard compares. When he talks about blunders, he's talking about AI hallucinations. And I don't have the example here. I have it in a different presentation. I actually went to ChatGPT and asked it, please tell me which books about cybersecurity did Etay Maor write, and please rate those books from 1 to 10. And it replied, Etay Maor wrote the book about preparing for your CISSP and gold certification book. Etay Maor is a highly respected security professional. These books are really good for, and I never wrote a book. Okay, so be very careful with the AI hallucinations. When it doesn't know the answer, it will make one up. Now, at the end of the day, there's a probability agent there, and honestly, probably my first book would be what the AI suggested, and I might take their advice, but I've never written one. So you need to be very careful, and that's what they're talking about. And I'm not going to show you the whole discussion here, but I do want to show you some of the replies on this thread, which went very long. Bard truly codes better than ChatGPT, even more complex things. However, it doesn't understand Russian. Bard occasionally makes things up, the hallucinations, or it refuses answering, say, I can't do this after all, I'm a chatbot. When you restart, it works fine. So reboot works on AI as well. The bot is still partially raw. All these artificial intelligence are still raw. This is the interesting answer that I wanted to get to. I think in about 5 years, it will be perfect to use them as a de facto standard. Bard also sometimes generated made-up nonsense. But if I had to choose between Bard and ChatGPT, I choose Bard. First of all, you can ask it question nonstop, although there are versions somewhere with limits. I don't know. I've interacted with ChatGPT version 3. I haven't tried version 4 yet. So what they're actually saying is, it's not ripe yet for us. You know, you'll see updates about, what was it, XXX GPT, Ghost GPT, Worm GPT. You have to be also very careful with some of them as a criminal, of course, because I've seen one that was advertised and the files were on GitHub. And when you go there, there's one file with 0 size, just an empty one waiting. So you use that, and then they'll update it with some code that will steal information from you at some point. To kind of summarize it, he's saying Bard to search the web, ChatGPT to generate content. Both are very limited to write code from scratch. But as that guy said, we must wait some years to use it in our daily life. So we're still not at the age of living off the AI. So the AI will do everything for us. We're not there yet. You know, a lot of all vendors out there, and I work for a vendor, will claim LLM, AI, and ML usage. That's fine. But these things are still not the Skynet that we think they are. What is, right now, still a big problem is how we implement zero trust and how much do we trust cloud applications like Trello, like G Drive, like Box, like Salesforce, which can and are easily abused by threat actors actively right now. So I hope the demonstration and the explanation of how botnet works and why they use these cloud applications for communication, telemetry, and storage, why this is such a huge advantage for them. And just going back to my slide, you do have the opportunity to stop this. You have the strategic, you have the operational, and the tactical kind of risk tolerance that you can employ using various solutions. I'm from Cato Networks. Of course, we have solutions for that, but there are a lot of products out there as well. Just look into this threat and make sure that your organization is protected by it because it is a threat. With that, I'm sorry for going about 20 seconds over time, but thank you very much for listening, and thank you for having me here.